Good evening, I'm Ali Parabukovsky. It's Tuesday, August 18th, and you're watching LaRouche PAC's Late Night Show. Man, it's good to be an American citizen, because it's only in the United States of America that you can get the kind of mass strike phenomena currently sweeping this nation. And it's not about a social class rising up or some special interest group defending their local issue. The only special interest in this case is the interest of patriotism, and their banner, the Obama stash. So what's happening to you? How is it that you, yesterday's average citizen, are now emerging as the leader of a historical patriotic movement fighting to defend the United States of America? And it's not just the United States, but what the history of this nation represents that you're fighting for. You are now the vessel of the greatest ideas that founded this nation. That natural law, not arbitrary or positive law, defines society. And that we as human beings have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness because we're human. And society is based on those principles. So Benjamin Franklin is living in you. Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Roosevelt are living in you. Gottfried Leibniz, the father of the principle of our U.S. Constitution, is living in you. In a meeting with his associates tonight, LaRouche stated that in the eyes of more and more people, he is the leader of not only this mass strike movement, but the leader of this country, because he represents the spirit of republicanism as against the oligarchical system running the rest of the world and attempting to take over our nation. Anybody who wants to kiss the ass of a king or a queen, or have a queen grab their wife's ass, do you call that an American? Mr. President, get a room! Those that have the morality and good sense to agree with us are becoming the real leadership in this nation. In LA, for example, LaRouche PAC activists found that the leadership of society is naturally looking to Lyndon LaRouche for the solutions in this crisis. 2 union members are bringing us in to be the leadership of their mass meeting. Similarly, a community leader who is mobilizing her networks against the healthcare reform is looking towards LaRouche to provide the leadership for her networks as well. All across the nation, American citizens recognize Lyndon LaRouche as their natural leader. So the mass strike is no social class movement in the terms of some sort of a notion of the mass strike as a class struggle. But this is a moral class movement. The question is not what social class do you belong to, but what moral class, what moral values do you identify with? People are fighting to defend their constitution, and they know that there is something sacred in their constitutional rights which is being violated by this government. Is being violated with the health care, but also with the economic collapse, the continued bailouts, and the fact that the real solution is being suppressed. As an example of a guilty party, according to a live report, Barney Frank got the mass strike treatment tonight at a town hall event in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. There was a crowd of over 500 people at the event, almost all of whom were there in protest. And the questions asked range from challenging Frank on the bailout to challenging why the hell he didn't go with LaRouche's Homeowners and Bank Protection Act in 2007. When he tried to blame Bush for the bailout policy, the crowd hissed and booed, saying, "No, you voted for this policy, and it's still going on under Obama." When LaRouche PAC activist Rachel Brown went through the push for Obama's Nazi healthcare in the context of one of history's greatest collapses, with 48 states bankrupt and massive unemployment, Frank's lame attempt to dodge the question was booed down by the crowd. And his attempts to try to calm down the audience's rage, asking why they were acting in this way, were met with increased rage. Why are the people acting this way, Barney? Because your constituency sees you and their government as their enemy. Because rather than upholding the rights of the people and the principles of our Constitution, you're playing hokey with bankers' backsides. And that's no pretty sight. So talk about a mass strike. 60,000 senior citizens walked out of the AARP, canceling their membership due to rumors, or perhaps just Obama's vehement exclamations, that the AARP supports his healthcare reform bill. Now, it's worth pointing out tonight that the issue in the healthcare debate has increasingly become the failures of the British system, which is the system that Obama is trying to model the American healthcare system on. Wait a second, didn't we fight a war against that? Since LaRouche PAC spokesman Deborah Freeman's interview last week and the increased attention Americans have drawn to the failures of the British model, the British have been forced to defend their NICE and NHS systems more than ever before. Well, here's an example of just how nice the British are. The story has just come out that a young mother was forced into a situation earlier this month where she went into labor and gave birth on the pavement in front of a hospital because the British NHS refused to send her an ambulance. She realized she was going into labor at her house and called the hospital for help. They told her to get into a hot bath and then make her own way over. After her bath, she realized that her labor was at a critical stage. She phoned the maternity ward back and told them to get an ambulance out there immediately. They said they would not send over an ambulance and that she had had 9 months to sort out a ride. A spokeswoman for the University Hospitals of Leicester NHS Trust said, "We are disappointed that Mrs. Blake was not happy with the advice and care she received and will of course investigate any complaint." How nice. And more people are picking up on the fact that the British system has been the real enemy all along. A Newsweek article, "Did Britain Wreck the World?" documents Britain's long-standing history of geopolitical warfare, saying that most of today's conflicts can be traced to British colonial-era meddling, either through partition, through slicing and dicing the planet as they saw fit, or worse, through indiscriminately corralling unrelated ethnic groups into a single quarrelsome country. The article then goes on to give brief summary histories of British occupation in Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, Iraq, Sudan, Israel, Palestine, Somalia, and Nigeria. Now, the British subjects may have tolerated this system for the last few hundred and more years. Isn't it ironic that it took another revolt from the shores of the continental North America to begin the process of freeing the British people yet again from their oligarchical masters? Fortunately, here in the United States, we don't take that shit. So we have the enemy on the run, just as we had during the best times in our history. Remember Lexington and Concord, where we chased the British all the way to Boston with their tails between their legs. Remember the surrender at Yorktown. The American Revolution was a mass strike movement. And today, Lyndon LaRouche is who the oligarchy fears the most because he is the living embodiment of the American tradition of that mass strike. LaRouche and the LaRouche Political Action Committee are recognized as the leadership of today's mass strike movement by the movement itself, and the flag around which we're rallying around, the Obama stash. The greatest lesson we can learn from the American Revolution is don't be a Rip Van Winkle. Wake up! Get out there and organize. Make your life worth something to generations to come, looking back on the history being made today. And contribute to LaRouchePAC.com so that we can continue to lead this fight. And stay tuned further on this week for more developments. This is Ali Parabukovsky, signing off.